Vibes Radio, hashtag morning vibes. Minaitwa Kevo Matara, good morning.
And of course the cream at the top of the milk, man, and a bad man, manze.
Yeah.
On the left hand side, manze, kama kawaida Kanairo 104.5, Mombasani we at 98.7, Nyeri Maika 98.8, kawaida Meru 107.1. Bigger all massive crew, manze, streaming online on vibesradio.co.ke. We love you for free. And of course, kwanzia leo, najua sahi kama uko kwa hao, na especially watu wa LD wale wanasikia kuna marasharasha juu ya mvua, watu party fiti. Tune your TV on KTN BTV.
Yeah, BTV. We're live hapo hivyo.
Tuko hapo mazee na mbogi tuko nayo mazee hapa mazee. The audio and visual dancehall reggae radio station.
Yeah.
Vibes Radio, baby.
You got it right, Buddha. Na sasa ina checking 11 minutes after 7. We're in the second hour of the show. Ikifika hapo hivyo 7:45 unaweza piga simu on 0719012700. Right now, unakumbuka tukianza show Kev, I mentioned one thing that is a special day today.
What's that?
Jana pili kwa defiti.
Jana waliharibu. Jana kwa defiti sana lakini waliharibu.
Waliharibu bro.
Hebu anze kwanza. Ndio jamani waliharibia.
Jana International Men's Day. Ilikuwa defiti, si ndio?
Siku ya wanaume. Siku ya wanaume kufungua roho. Kusema kitu inawakula. Hii maneno ya kila saa mwanaume afai kulia. Jana nilikuwa inabaki lia bro. Lia. Hata na kisu usitulie live. Chali usituangushe. Lakini do it. Kama lazima ulie bro, usiangushe boy child. Tafuta mali kuna matanga.
Alafu cheki ukilia usilie in public.
Enda kwa matanga. Lia huko nini unalilia ule msemeenda hata kama umjui.
Wewe kiona. Unakumbuka ndio? Unakumbuka juzi tukibonga ile story ya insecurities that Kenyan men usually have kwa hao. Jana ndo buda wasao alikuwa anafunguka. Unapata msee anasema you know this conversation na shukuru kwanza inafaa tukue nayo in the next
should be going on.
There's a guy alikuwa ananiambia Kev, ever since my woman gave birth, si amekuwa CEO wa nyumba. Sasa anataka nimpatie mshahara yangu yote ati so that she can be running the affairs. Na yeye akitaka kwenda out anaenda na pocket money from the wife.
Wow.
I said, how now?
But it's been like that, bro. Hiyo ni matrix.
Ati hi babe, so nisaidie hapo na 2K please. I want to just run down here and na boys.
Wewe
bana bro.
Kev, sikia, hata si 2K. Ni unapelekea mama yote kichwani. Anachukua anajifanya hapo amepiga hesabu yake afa anachuna 1 afa anaangalia reaction ya face akionekana umekuwa disappointed kidogo no 5 5 nibaki uwezi kwa utakula veve na chupa 7 hiyo ni commit suicide.
We have a family.
Hiyo kutosha, tuko na family to run and ujibambe 2 hours 3 hours rudi home.
Kenyan man kimoramba but maintain your frame.
Watu wamepatikana. Unasikia mama anataka mshahara yako yote. Lakini ukiwa chalika mimi awaken unamuuliza direct babes hata ukisoma kwa Bible God anataka only 10%.
Lakini Kevo si wewe unasemanga the woman is the CEO of the home.
Of course, lakini 10%. Kama Mungu achukua 10%. Wewe ni mama ya Mungu. Unataka kuchukua mshahara yote.
What a way to start the conversation. Aya, raka wacha to introduce our special guest and then we have a look at what is happening kwa magazeti. Then we can get into the big conversation of the day. Remember guys, today the 20th day of November is World Children's Day. Now umesema theme ni for every child every right. Asante sana. All right, special guest wacha tuanze on my left hand side. My brother, you can introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, unafanyanga nini, and then we can also talk to another bro. Tuangalie gazeti, then we move on with this conversation.
All right, my name is Gabriel Mureithi. I am a child protection specialist working with World Vision Kenya. World Vision Kenya is an international Christian organization yenye tunaangalia maswala ya watoto. Actually, our vision is actually from life in all its fullness for every child. So katika life in all its fullness, rights zote ziko ndani. What we want is to see that child grow to the full potential, because that is what we want to ensure that every child grows to the very right potential. So kama ni mtoi amezaliwa na anataka kukuja kuwa daktari, what can we do together as a society to make sure that huyu mtoto atakuwa daktari? And then sisi kama jamii, what is our role? What is our role? The roles that we play as an individual, as a community, to ensure that this child grows in the best environment. And so in all this, what we want to see is that particular child growing without being discriminated, with that particular child to grow into full potential. And of course, because of that, we always say the best interest of the child always comes first.
Absolutely. And you know, Gabriel, you're speaking, na mimi nafikiria tu vile kuna sasa tuko kwa holiday. It takes me back to ile time ya COVID. Man, we saw kids going through so so much. Walipitia madhambi mingi sana.
Kwa wazazi wao.
Yeah, it's quite sad, man. So right now I believe, like you said, everyone has a role to play in when it comes to making our children live in an environment where they can thrive. When it comes to security, when it comes to the general welfare. Kila kitu manze.
And you know, children usually learn through what they see. So wakati kwa nyumba, when people are fighting, you know, when the parents are fighting, the children see that and it really affects them. You see one thing, once you expose them once in a lifetime, kama ni Buda amechapa nanio wife yake na mtoto ameona yeye pia atakuja kuchapa wife wake.
Si wanasemanga monkey see monkey do, atadhani ni right.
Monkey see monkey do. So those are some of the things. So katika environment ya home pia, how do we live, how do we ensure that the children see the right things that are happening? Of course umeongea kuhusu COVID. Of course that time watu walikuwa na a lot of exposure, people are being held in the houses, a lot of drinking and everything. And if you look at the statistics, we also had a lot of child suicide during that particular time.
Wow.
Yeah, and it is very sad that even if you look at the statistic right now, unakuta violence, especially kwa maboy child. Unaona zamani watu walikuwa naongea kuhusu girl child and everything. You realize around 54% of boys now are suffering from physical violence and around 46% of girls in the same way. So
na violence imetoka mostly from who?
Violence inatoka
is it family? Is it their peers? Is it walimu? Mostly it's from who?
Actually, everybody is a potential abuser. If you do not look into the rights of the child, then you can abuse that child, hata sometimes without knowing. You see, kuna ile njaro unasema mazemi sitaki watoto wangu wa intermingle na watoto wengine bla bla bla. Tayari umemdeny right yake kucheza, right yake yes, the right to play is a fundamental right for a child. Mbali na yeye kuassociate na wenzake, ana learn social skills and everything, inamsaidia yeye pia health wise in terms of motor skills. Unacheki mtu akienda kucheza ball, hiyo kukimbia muscles zinakuwa hard and everything and then of course anapatana na the outside world. Development ya speech and everything actually inakuja na the social skills za mtoto, lakini ukimfungia umemwaribu.
Gabriel, napenda vile umeanza na hiyo pace, napenda hiyo pace. Iko fiti. That's a good conversation starter. And then on my right hand side, my brother, karibu sana. Maybe you can introduce yourself, haraka, tell us where you're from, what you do, and then we can get right into this conversation after front page news.
Shukran Kevo na
Kevo. My name is Kevo Badman, Kevo Matara.
Thank you, big ups kutu alika huku. Mimi naitwa Samuel. Najua kiasi umeogopa kupronounce ya pili.
Munyuwiny.
Samuel Munyuwiny. Sio ati nini.
Si Munyuwiny.
Ni jina sasa naona wanaelekea.
Hili jina
inategea moods.
Jina ya region gani bro?
Ukiwa na moods
za weekend.
Munyuwiny.
Bro, let me ask you a random question. Which region are you from?
That's a Luo name.
You're a guy from even me anyway. Sawa tu.
Mimi ni Msudan.
Sawa.
Jina kali. Munyuwiny, karibu.
Thank you very much. Nafanya shirika linaitwa African Institute for Children Studies. I'm actually among the founder members. So hii ni shirika la mtaani. So it's good tunaongea na watu wa base. Just to encourage you kwamba you can get up and fix things in the continent as a child. And I am here. Najua wengi mnaniangalia hapa mko na nywele nyingi. Hata mimi niko na nyoa box wakati nyingine. Sawa hivyo. Sinione hivyo.
Mimi cheki una sign. Internally.
So hizo siku nilikuwa na nyoa box bado. Kulikuwa na idea. We just saw kwamba tukia mtaani unakuta mara nyingi histories za rights zinaonekana kama stories za international za majuu za hizi huko kuna stories za rights, lakini sio kweli, kwa sababu tukiongea mambo ya rights, African Institute for Children Studies tuna believe kwamba sisi kama watu wa mtaa we should be able to take our own position to provide leadership in giving opportunity. So the big word here is opportunity for everyone.
Right.
When I compare na ukienda kule nakumbuka geography yako kiasi.
Iko fiti kwanza sana hiyo.
Iko fiti hapa. So kulikuwa na tunasema canopy. If you go into a place kuna miti kadhaa. Kuna zile miti ambazo ni shrubs, hazitawahi kuwa kubwa, but they have their special role. Lakini ukitaka miti zako zigrow zote na ziwe useful, unataka kusupply kama Kenya Power. Lazima uzipatie equal opportunity zipate jua, zipate maji, ipate soil. So that's what we're talking about. Kwamba everyone must do that. Na cha muhimu ni kwamba local organizations have greater power to do that.
Right.
Kuna story kwa mfano, children walking in the street. I remember I also sit in the National Committee on Access to Justice for Children.
Yes.
It's by the NCAJ. And one of those things we really had to deal with. There's a time at a county, I think Turkana County, ilibeba watoi wa mtaa, wa streets, wakaweka kwa lori, wakawapeleka Eldoret, wakamwambia usiingishu, hii ni story yenu. But you see, that's not how we've all grown up. As Africa, we must be able to provide an opportunity for every child.
Right.
And so that is really what we believe in.
Yes.
And I think we today really hope will encourage watu wa mtaani mjue kwamba you have an opportunity. What is it new in the law? Like there's now a child welfare fund in the new law. How do you tap into such opportunities to do more for your children?
Good stuff. Now, guys, umesikia, we are with our special guests, Gabriel Mureithi, Protection and Children in Children in Emergencies Officers. That is World Vision Kenya, and Samuel Munyuwiny, yes, Executive Director, Africa Institute for Children Studies. Na leo ni World Children's Day. You've heard about that. Remember, guys, the theme is for every child, every right. Aya, saina chekini 22 minutes after 7. We're going to have a dope conversation. Remember, unaweza stream live on www.vibesradio.co.ke. Tukirudi, in about 30 seconds, we'll tell you what's happening on the front page of the dailies. Alafu sasa tuingie kwa hii conversation. I've got some Hurting Me, Steph Landan, and French Montana. Twende kazi.
This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio.
0719012700. Hashtag Morning Vibes. Mimi naitwa Kevo Matara.
Mana bad man hapa maze kama kawaida maze Kevo the baddest. Keeping it real maze na wageni wetu Gabriel Mureithi na Samuel Munyuwiny.
Nice. Itakam Kevo, eh?
Why?
Nilikwambia nakupenda Kisumu wewe.
Leo ni World Day.
No, you're doing good,
Kisumu, tena Kisumu.
Kisumu City. Today is
World Children's Day.
Yes.
Manze ni hatari sana Voke.
Yes.
Ukikumbuka jana ilikuwa ni World Men's Day.
International Men's Day.
Alafu inakuanga somehow ni kama unakumbuka ule mdema akisema hapa nani anaangalia stories za machali. Boy child mambo yake iangaliwi, sijui nini. So ukiona kitu kama International Men's Day imetokea leo na ikaisha leo hata bila wanaume kujua, bila kufanya conference. Something ain't right.
Something ain't right.
Yeah, something ain't right.
We're talking about that. Like if tunajua, we know very well that this conversation is ongoing.
Yeah.
No matter the day. Tumejua vizuri that society in general has to be empowered. Everyone, not at men peke yake ama children peke yake ama even animals. Sikuizi nimesikia kuna animal rights.
Yeah.
But as we start with this conversation, maybe nianze na the brother Gabriel. There's this thing called violence against children in Kenya. And tumecheki, it's been on the rise over the years. How big is this problem of violence against children in Kenya compared to the rest of the world? Junajua hapa hivi manze, saa zingine mtu uangalia news unasikia ati mother lichoma mtoi na maji moto kwa mgongo juu ya sijui 50 bob. Kidogo unasikia mtoi alichapa shule hadi akadedi.
Akadedi juu ati alikula chapati mbili.
Alikula sijui chapo ya mwalimu manze ama sijui. Manze, like all these other things tunacheki kwa news. What are the stats like right now?
Well, it is very disheartening. Ukiangalia vile life imesonga, of course there's a lot of frustrations out there. Sometimes these children face violence because of the frustrations that are in the environment. Unacheki, for somebody, especially mama, mzazi in this particular case, akichapa mtoi to that extent, hiyo ni manifestation ya vitu zenye ziko ndani yake. You see, a lot of stress has come into life, of course, harsh economic times, of course, broken relationships. Zinafanya hao wazazi sasa ule utu wa uzazi kidogo tu unapungua. So you realize sometimes we act out of hasira, so you beat up the child, then later on, of course, it dawns onto you, hey, what have I done? So the statistics here are very glaring. You realize that physical violence is on the rise. If you go to the website here, this year, the Department of Children's Services, we have what we call CPIMS, Child Protection Information System. If you get into it and you look at the statistics, by the way, tunaweza kuzicheki hapo hivyo uweke watu wanaoche, utarealize physical violence especially ni kubwa sana. But again, when you're talking about violence, see physical peke yake, kuna emotional violence. I've already talked about wazazi wakiwa nazozana, wakipigana, watoto wanaona. There's a lot of violence going out there, a lot of hata movie. Sometimes you see uko hapo tu kwa nyumba mnataka kuwatch movie, ni kahora ni nini. You don't think about that particular child. anayabsorbaje? Kama mtu mzima ukicheki horror movie unalishindwa kulala, what about that particular child?
Manze.
Yeah, and that is just a movie, but again it's not about the movie, it's even the happenings of the society. These children play outside there, then kuna mwizi amepatikana, amekimbizwa, amepigwa nini, they see that kind of violence, they see the blood flowing, and then of course to a child wanafikiria maze, that is the way to go. Like ukinikosea acha nikutwange, like we square it out. So that is also part of violence. Emotional violence can also be how the parents themselves bring up this particular child. You know, kuna wazazi wengine out of, as I said, hasira ndani, ambia wewe unajua wewe ni mjinga kama baba X, you know, niseme tu vile iko,
asemangi mama yako
ama parangi gongi mama yako. So mtu unamuita wewe umbwa, you know, bad language, you know. I should not be talking about that in the radio, but however those are the things that usually happen. So unakuta huyo mtoto deep inside ana feel mazemi ni mjinga, mimi ni dogi, you know, mimi ni easy. So emotionally huyo mtoto hakuangi stable, and of course unakuta sometimes hata kwa shule pia unakuta watoto, even children to children, expose themselves to violence. Unajua ile design, especially growing up, wale watu wali grow up ocha, ulikuwa ukiwa unakojoa kitandani sana mpaka unaimbiwa song kikojozi you know, that's bullying. That's bullying, you know. So you realize these people, by the way, watoto wana grow with a lot of trauma inside. Sometimes, as I said, sometimes ni violence, sisi hatujui kama ni violence and everything, but have you ever seen children going to school with tattered uniform, or uniform ni chafu, you know, anaenda hivyo ni mchafu, akifika shule watoto wengine ni wachafu, wanamwangalia like mazee huyu bana, unajua yule kijana mchafu, yule bla bla bla, you know, and then if it's torn, of course esteem yake inashuka. And one of the things that we are proposing, or rather we are pushing into this particular time, is the dignity of the child. Kuna principles za child protection zenye tunasema the dignity of the child. Kwanza kila mtoto ana utu. Please protect that dignity. Don't say bad things about these children. Make sure mtoto akienda shule ni msafi. Let them be clean. So talk to them in a nice way. I mean, lift up their spirits.
At least wamekula food.
Mzazi hakikishe mtoto amekula vizuri, ameoga vizuri kama
Gabriel, before we expound on the dignity of the child and its importance, wacha niulize hapa hivi Samuel unajua leo anasema the theme of World Children's Day 2023 is for every child every right. What are these rights exactly?
Swali nzuri sana. Okay, mwanzo tuanze, mbona ni international? What does it mean? So this is the day also, this November 20th, when the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child was passed, and you know, so it's a very significant day, and this is almost from 1954. So we are talking about several years of having this. Now, ukienda the UN Convention, there's a way they organize into 4 categories of rights. One of the category of rights is survival rights. Inamaanisha kwanza, wezi niambia story ya kusoma na nini if I am dead, sindio? So mwanzo is every child surviving, and therefore that's very critical part. Na survival inaanzia sio tu ule mtoto ambaye anatembea. Let's begin even akiwa kwa tumbo. From conception. You know, how do we protect the mothers? How do we so I like what you were saying earlier on. The role of a man in all that is very, very important. Then besides that, you go into development. Sasa nime survive. Sisi tu nikako hapo mimi nimesurvive. I need to have dreams. Kila mtu akona dreams. How do I get those opportunities to dream? So there hebu nirudie nyuma kidogo. Pale survival rights ni is every child able to eat? Is every child able to access health services? When you go to development, kila mtoto yeye anaenda shule. Najua hii story imekuwa noma sana sasa hizi. Tunasikia gava mara hawana pesa za free secondary school hawajazi. Imekuwa very difficult for most parents, but that is very critical. Na sasa hii basic education sio class 1 mpaka 8. Tumeenda CBC sasa ilikuwa mpaka secondary school umalize pamoja. So that's part of it. Ile muhimu sana pia hapo ni play. Mtoi lazima apewe nafasi ya kuplay. So hatuwezi kwa tunajenga flats na hakuna mahali ya kucheza. So unaona mtoi, there's something we call flat syndrome.
Inamaanisha
mtoi amegrow mahali hata hajui kujistretch. Because my penye anacheza ni kama ile ameweka kanini kadogo. You know, these things impact your brain so much. Then now you go into protection rights. And this month is a very special month, Kevo. I told you I sit in the National Council for Administration of Justice. We have what we call a service month in the judiciary. Sai kama kuna mtu huyu akona kesi imemchelewa mara anaitwa shule nini, go to the next court station. Utasaidika. We are trying to fast track all the cases so that there is no backlog. This month also, this week actually, Kenya has been leading in protection rights for children. We are holding the international conference on child protection in Africa.
Good stuff.
This is the third time we are hosting it. Everyone comes from the world. It's Kenya that does that only. So we are doing this at Daystar University in here in Nairobi, so ile at River, and the whole world is coming. I'm actually chairing the committee that is planning that conference, and we have a lot of issues that we are bringing on the table. What you're asking yourself, what works? CO2 combat every time is something doesn't work. So protection rights are very, very important, and then participation rights.
But expound on that.
Participation means kila mtoi kuna vile unajijua, kuna vile unajua hapa I can fix this problem in this way. And the truth is, nilieleza kuna wakati nilikuwa na nyoa box. That time I used to think differently about life from now. My priorities were different. Right now as a much older person, my priorities are different. So when nikiwa na mtoi wangu, lazima nimsikize. When you're making decisions, we've had cases where a child amejitia kitanzi amejinyonga kwa sababu alilazimishwa kurudi kwa shule. Shule fulani.
Shule hataki.
Na sio tu hataki. Especially for boy child, there's a lot of sodomy and going on in schools. There's bullying happening in school. Online media. Unaona mtoi jamaa anakwambia your boyfriend, hebu niaje nituweka picha yako kanude. Unaituma tu without thinking. Kidogo anakwambia if you don't sleep with me, I'm going to put it on social media. It's all over. So mtoi hajajua how do I manage myself? So vitu kama za online safety na hizo. So the whole world is meeting in Nairobi this week to try and share solutions.
That's amazing. Acha nikuulize hiyo stuff ya flat syndrome. Yani it got me thinking sana bro. Kwa sababu nilikuwa nachiki documentary fulani talking about Kileleshwa vile kuna apartments more manze. Place ka pipe una chikule nafanana man. Does it worry you when you see hizi apartments zina come about knowing very well watu yao watakuwa na place ya kucheza?
Kevo, you know, I've talked about play. It is so important. First of all, it is said if you really want to make a country rich, you need to deal with 0 to 6 months.
6 months, yes.
Wakule na wacheze. Hizo vitu viwili. Hii haraka tunakuanga na mtoi ati sijui lazima aende shule, huyu mtoi
ati 1 to 100.
Ati tulikuwa na hata karibu tulikuwa na PP0. Sijui no.
Your play group.
The governor inasema mtoi aende PP1 akiwa 4 years.
Yes.
Mwanzo apate nafasi ya kucheza. Sasa tukiwa kwa flat, you won't have. Let me tell you why it's so important. One of the things that makes you are very creative people here. What makes you creative is the ability to imagine and say in your words what it is. That ability to imagine and say is created through play. Sasa kama mtoi ati mnaishi kile,
kwa hivyo Kevo ulicheza sana wewe.
Alicheza.
Kabisa.
Mimi nilikuwa kwa lake. That's what is next to the lake. Kuna kwa mlima huko. Weekend tunaenda swimming. So
play is very important. So it's very worrying when all of alafu you know, unfortunately mkiwa kwa flats mara nyingi mzazi concern yake usiguze matope. But it's matope and creating is what tells your brain how to fix solutions. So you want the next Zuckerberg. You need the next Bill Gates, the guy who is fixing a problem, who is creating jobs. To tell you the truth, that is why we are not creating jobs.
What about this thing for unachiki parona by mtoi hizi ma
PlayStation.
Hizi ma PlayStation, hizi ma gadgets za watu.
Mimi kwa house hizi meniletea shida.
Kevo ulikuwa unadai kubuy stuff fulani wewe pia.
Hebu niguzie hiyo dakika kidogo kwa sababu there's a big impact on screen technology. There's research going back. Unajua yanasema data doesn't lie. I'm a parenting coach. And one of the things that is very important, it said, do not give your child more than 2 hours of screen time. Sisemi tu mambo ya social media, hata TV. Okay, najua mko na TV yenu mnataka tu watch, lakini encourage children to be able to do things with the hands. It makes the brain develop better.
In fact, you know, if you look at the world statistics, zile nchi, let me not mention countries, but zile nchi ambazo zinasuffer zaidi na story ya obesity and the like, are countries that have people who do not work so much, you know, watu kukaa kwa TV and everything, because ukikaa kwa movie sasa uko juu ya Netflix, miguu iko juu, your body doesn't work, wewe kazi yako ni kukula tu ma popcorns na nini, so that now you can imagine if that is happening to the older people, what about the children? And he said something very nice here about creativity. You see, for the children that grow, especially uko mashinani, and people who have an opportunity to interact with others, hapo ndio anakana to meet and imagine hii miti na ile gari nimecheki naweza kutengeza. If you look at way before, ilikuwa watoto hawakuwa wananunuliwa toys, they used to make their own toys. Hata akina sisi ndio, hata mpira ball lazima ulikuwa unaenda unatafuta makaratasi na kamba na nini. You see that creativity right now hainanga, because you go out there and you even if you just sit down with your children, you create that ball, wanacheki alafu wanasema imagine ati ni ball na inaekwa kando, and then they still insist to have a ball. And maybe there's something he said about participation.
Yes.
And participation wanasema is in ensuring that children are involved in decision making, even at home. Do your children make decisions there? And you say
leo dado acha tukule nyama, naanza zile juna dona nyama inaharibingi watu baba.
But unajua Kibo, you can still do it in a way that builds them. Muambie
mna reason,
mnaambia so tuko na 500 ya hii wiki ya food, nitawapatia mjipange nayo.
Wataona ni kama budana beat.
But you see, especially story ya food, unajua, and this goes to parents. You know, I don't know why watoto wengi upenda nyama. You know, when you ask your children what do you want to eat, watasema nyama. But you see, participation is you have involved them, right? What do you want to eat? Sisi tunataka kula nyama, okay fine. I know you want meat, however saizi hakuna do ya nyama. Mnaonaje leo nitawapikia terere vizuri, but kesho nitafanya nini? Nitakula nyama. You know, the child will feel good, and you know they'll eat that food knowing that kesho itakuwa. And wewe kama mzazi inakutuma unajua, by the way niko na deni ya nyama. And you see, there's something about children. Children are faith based, you know, like whatever you tell them they own it. Ukimwambia mtoto wako leo baba nitakununulia bike, akitoka nje anaenda kuambia mabesto yake baze bike ikikam nitakubeba. You see, they own it, wanaanza kuiendesha hata before ikamkwa hao. So that is what we want. You know, want children to get into it and understand, I mean, and participate. And if you go to the schools right now, that's why watoto wanapigia kura even their own prefects. That is participation. We have channels like children assemblies and children parliaments where children sit and discuss things that affect them. Then one thing I would really espouse, and because we're talking about for every child and every right. And of course we want them to grow into their fullest. One of the other things that we need to do as a community, as a state, is to involve these children. Wakati tukifanya budgeting, kuna especially at the county level, kuna ile inaitwa CIDP, County Implementation Development Plan. Do we have the voice of the children? The best thing ni kukaa chini na watoi na mnauliza nyinyi mngetaka mfanywe nini? Then it's not just about hearing. Do we put those voices into our budgets? Wakisema sisi tunataka playfield, does the county put in a budget to ensure that there are playfields for their children? Wakisema sisi tunataka tuwe tunakunywa maziwa, do the counties actually put that into the budget?
That's an interesting proposal, kwa sababu many times watu fikirenga watoi wajui vitu. You know, ideas za watoi ni za ufala. I mean, you need to grow up.
Mtoto ni binadamu. Mtoto ni binadamu. Actually what we say is a child is a full human being. They have their needs, they can express themselves, and you know, sometimes as adults we always want to come up with solutions for children, but we think as adults, but children's solution need a children thinking.
That is Gabriel Mureithi. Umesikia, children's solutions needs a children thinking. We're also hanging out with Samuel Munyuwiny. He's the executive director, African Institute of Children's Studies, and Gabriel is the Protection and Children in Emergencies Officer, World Vision Kenya. Kumbuka leo ni World Children's Day, and it's amazing, Mazi, because the theme is for every child, every right. We're going to take a short break to lipe my bills. Alafu tukirudi, we'll continue with this conversation.
Positive vibrations on the morning vibes.
Take your Monday vibes. No, Mama, what a way to start the week.
You just don't know.
Wanasema today is World Children's Day. And the
International.
And the theme is for every child, every right. So while you're going about your business, do understand that all of us have a role to play when it comes to giving our children an environment to thrive. Lazima mtoia live up to his full potential. He or her full potential.
Kwanza especially watu huko Islando.
Yes.
Kule kwote wamechukua area zote za watoto kucheza. Jua hapa tuko na World Vision Otero hapa.
We'll report you guys.
Na tunabonga hapa tutakujua World Vision wanaendelea hiyo story.
Speaking of which, Kevo tuko na Gabriel Mureithi, like I told you guys, Protection and Children in Emergencies Officer World Vision Kenya.
Yep.
Big up sana to World Vision for this conversation, and of course Pia, the one and only Samuel Munyuwiny. He's the Executive Director, African Institute for Children Studies.
Yes.
Gentlemen, as we continue with this conversation, when it comes to VSC, the violence against children, maybe sasa kuna msiana mtoi, but history membamba mazana sema I have to be a responsible citizen. I have to take care of children in my community. What is the most common form of violence? Yenye msiana za samata isi violence, but it's actually violence na inaweza traumatize watoi, so that in case maybe mtu ameona ikitu ina happen, he can jump in, probably take some of those perpetrators to police, ama tu ende pale mazee apiganie rights za mtoi. What are the common forms of violence?
All right, maybe I go first then Samuel.
Gabriel,
yes. The most common forms of violence hapa utakuta denial of these particular children's rights. One, especially children who live with disabilities. Unakuta the society has not given these people an opportunity to be themselves. Unakuta sometimes watoto wanafungiwa. Unakuta kwa jirani yako akona mtoto mwenye hatoki nje kabisa. You can actually hear a child cry, but you've never seen this particular child just because labda akona ulemavu fulani. So everybody has a right to make that vice known. And you know, the beauty is this country has different lines. Actually kuna number in it 116, that is child helpline 116. Nani bure. You're not charged to use that line, so you can actually make a call and actually report, and you can report in anonymity, right? Such that tutasema tu in this particular village kuna mtu fulani kuna mtoto anaendago 1-2 na uiache hapo. Whoever is going to pick that call will actually make sure that atatafuta njia mpaka ule mtoto asaidike. So that is just one. Two, the other violence is sometimes ni kama ni violence kuchapa mtoi. Kuna kuadhibu na kumpiga. Those are two different things. So like it needs to be corrective. It shouldn't be punitive. Unakuta mtu anapiga mtoto labda na rungu,
manze,
chuma moto, mwiko, those kind of things. Actually those are violences against children. And one of the most common one yenye hata watu hawajui na many times we do it is denying that child the right to education. And how does this come in? Umeenda wewe uko na watoi, hauna house help, unaenda ocha, unachukua mtoto juu kwao hawana uwezo wa kwenda shule, unakuja naye kama house help. Anybody who is below the age of 18 is a child. So imagine uko na huyo mtoi ako 16 years just because hana uwezo wa kwenda shule. Ana prepare watoto wako wanaenda shule, yeye anabaki hapo. Huyo ndo anakupikia, yeye ndo anafanya everything. That is violence against children. If you really want to help these children, mchukue umpeleke shule.
Wallahi,
hapo utakuwa umemsaidia.
It's interesting, last week tulikuwa na conversation nyingine. There was a comedian. Alikuwa ndo nani Kev? Ule comedian alikuwa kwa Churchill, alikuwa anasema vile madhake alikuwa anamtesa.
Nani?
I forgot his name. And I asked people. Mtumishi. Nikafunga phone lines hapa hivi nikamwambia my guys, have you been through a similar situation where your family member amekutesa, amekufanya madhambi? Hii simu hii karibu hata
ilikuwa na traffic.
Traffic ilikuwa mingi. Kenyans have been going through so much. Young Kenyans in the hands of the family members. Masana, but Samuel, let's talk about interventions. Kuna chali labda anajua neighbor mazee anatesanga mtu huyu anampiga noma, ama they've been denied access to school. What are some of the things your institute can do to help sort out this manenos?
Good point, and let me begin kwa prophet wa good news kiasi. Unajua tukiongea hizi story sometimes it feels like hey, this one cannot end. Actually Kenya is among the first 3 countries that did a study on violence against children. Looking at all those things Gabriel amesema in 2010. And then tukafuata another one in 2019. And it's really good news that over those almost 10 years, we've reduced in the number of cases that are being witnessed. We were at almost 86% cases, but we've now come down to about 56% cases.
Significant.
Yes. So it tells you can do something, and it works. So, like I mentioned earlier on, African Institute for Children's Studies is a local organization. We started here in Kenya, now we're in Uganda, in Zimbabwe, in South Sudan, and even now in the US. We are doing reverse. Sio lazima watoke huko ndio hata sisi tunaweza enda kwao. Funny.
I like.
Yes. But now, what we're really emphasizing is communities must have capacity to be able to protect themselves. The truth is, I can't come to every neighborhood to do something. But how do we organize yourself? So the first role that we do is to support you to organize yourself. We have platforms like Children Agenda Forum. This is, we have around 86 community-based organizations across this country. So we can come in, organize yourself. Even young men, you can say we can do something about girls. We've, for example, through our work, we do consultancies, and we take 10% of our income, we pay school fees for children. But it's not just paying school fees. We're having young men. I have some young man called Brian who is in Kajiado. He's stepping up on matters on FGM. So he mwenyewe, as a young man of about 16-year-old, he steps out and does something around that. I have another young lady from Dandora. She's stepping out, talking about access to sanitary pads. So one, I want to really encourage your people that we can facilitate you to get that. And so for us, it's not just paying school fees, which sometimes we don't have enough money to pay for everyone, but also holding hands of young people, of community groups to be able to know to organize themselves. One area that I think we can really do something very important, and the new law, we have a new Children's Act since 2022. We are really encouraging what is called foster care instead of sending children to institutions. Most of us usually, ukiona mtoi na akona shida unafikiria kuna children home gani tutampeleka. Actually, you heard the minister say, and correctly, we put it in the law. 10 years from now, hakutakuwa na what we call charitable children institution. Kutakuwa na rescue centers za gava. So what is required is, you don't want to grow up feeling like, ukiulizwa wewe ni mtoi wapi, kwenu ni wapi, ati ni ile children home. You don't say, kwetu mimi mtoi wa Kevo. You know, you feel like I belong. These are my grand people. So every child needs to be given an opportunity to belong to a home. So you out there, if there's a family suffering somewhere, you can do something. And the opportunities that are being done now, there's a cash transfer program that children who are most vulnerable are being given. So we are trying to encourage the government to link that cash transfer and families that are taking up. If you take several children whom we are trying to support, not into your home directly, they could be where they are, but kila mwezi, you do
but
something.
At the same time, ukiongejea foster parent, let me come in, niko na cheki, kuna hii situation unapata, kama vile unasema watu wachukue watu hii wakae nao. Yet tunapata maybe ile family pia ni mzee violent. Na amechukua mtoto. The government of the day, kanyi vile for World Vision nini, do a follow up about that?
Yes. Acha niguzia then Gabi unaweza ongezea. So there is a procedure. The law requires that the Secretary for Children's Services, a director, should have a list of foster families. Haikuangi tu ati umeamka ukasema tachukua mtoi. No. Kuna process. Lazima ukaguliwe kiasi, tujue, and then there's a monitoring system. I must say, this is where we are very weak as a country. Because utakuta ile budget ambayo tumekuwa tunapatia Children Department, or in Saina inaitwa Directorate for Children's Services, it's not been adequate to enable them. Anything happenings. I'll give you a quick example. During maandamano, kuna shule watu walipigwa tear gas. About 46 children.
Tulicheki manze.
Walikuwa Kangemi sivyo? Mamari hapo. Were taken to a private hospital. I was being called because of what the role we do in coordinating children organizations. Napigwa simu saa 5 ati tuko hapa na watu 46 wameshindwa kulipa bill waende nyumbani. Ati tuchange. Nikasema tuchange nini? Sisi tuko na gava. How can you do that? Why didn't we even have an in? So what did we require? We needed an empowered children department. Children officer ambayo iko karibu nawe. And one, you can also be a volunteer children officer. I want to encourage the public. Reach out, even through your chief, atakueleza nini utafanya. Then you are able to, the moment something like tear gas imefanyika, you should be able to quickly know watoi wako wapi. How have we supported them?
All right. Now, Gabriel, let me ask you.
Yes.
Bwana Samuel amention hapo hivyo serikali. Are you satisfied as guys of World Vision with the what the government has done when it comes to interventions in case of hizi mashida zinaffect watu huko nje. Are you okay with the level the government has has gotten to at this point?
Well, tricky question, but yes. Somehow, let me say that legislation equals. Government imefanya so much. There's so much legislation, so many programs. However, implementation imekuwa issue. That is what I can say, and we decry. We say that the government is not doing enough. It's not just. It's not doing enough because the goodwill ndio haitoshi.
Goodwill ndio si enough.
Goodwill ndio si enough. And then there's something else, and as we are speaking about for every right, every child every right, sometimes even the people that are supposed to take care of these particular children deny them. Like if these are social social safety networks, safety nets. Unakuta kuna basari inafaa ipatiwane watoto, but unakuta mwalimu anapeleka watoto wake, chief anachukua food. Kuna food imetumwa for the vulnerable, then jamaa anakata kwanza anasema mazee bana hakikisha imekuja kwangu, you have a salary yet you are taking the food from these particular people. However, we are not losing it. As he said, Kenya is actually in the forefront. And let me talk about the organization that I serve. World Vision Kenya has different projects. We have a project called Tumikia Mtoto. It's funded by the USAID. Na USAID ina work Kiambu na huku kwa law to do families. And what we are proud of is that in the last 1 year or so tumekuwa tukifanya statistics, tukafanya research, realize so many people cannot take care of the children because the economic level is low. So what we did, we went out there na tukatrain wazazi, tukawatrain different things, how to take care of the parents. But one biggest thing that I can say and proudly we have done is economic empowerment of these particular children, parents. So we did around 5,893 parents were trained on an economic empowerment. Na wakanza kitu zamani kwetu wa VSLA, Village Saving Lending Group, right? And right now we have projects called S4T, Saving for Transformation, where after training these people, we empower them to save pesa tu kidogo for them to be able to take care of their needs. And we are very, very happy that we have around 20,007 savings and loan groups among them. And these particular parents are now taking care of their children better. They can now pay their school fees, they can feed them. And many times, most of these groups ni wa mama ndo wanakuanga nayo. Wa mama wanakuanga na discipline tu ingine tofauti. Yeah. And you see, and that is why we need to give equal opportunity to everybody. Yes. And when these women come together, they are doing tremendous things. You go out there and you look at the businesses, they're sustaining their businesses, they're taking the children to school, and of course the dignity of the family is upheld. In fact, we've had good stories about women who were neglected. And women who are neglected, hakuna mtu anampatia voice and everything, but at least, and I think there's a time Omanyala, our very own Omanyala alikuwa anasema zamani nobody used to listen to my man, but ever since I became a world champion, guys wanamwita madhe kwa mtaa. So dignity in empowerment.
Time imeenda sana. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up over here. Producer amesema cut it. That is Gabriel Mureithi, Protection and Children in Emergencies Officer, World Vision Kenya. And of course, Samuel Munyuwiny, he's the Executive Director, Africa Institute for Children's Studies. Good morning, guys. I hope you enjoy. Next hour, we are on Jadala Koto Public Opinion. Twende kazi.
Morning Vibes, where you are the MVP. No negative vibes. Alrighty. Maze saina checking 3 minutes after 8. Karibu sana kwa conversation. Guys, if you're joining us, remember, we are #morning vibes. Mimi natoka hivyo Matara, man.
Bades na the building, maze following the thing closely, maze tuko na wale wakuu. Gabriel Mureithi hapa na Dina Protection and Children in Emergencies Officer, World Vision Kenya, huo ni Gabu. Alafu kuna Samuel Munyuwiny, Executive Director, African Institute for Children's
Munyuwiny.
Studies.
na like guys, about to, in fact, to wrap up your conversation, although watu wanasema
kuna mambo moba tujabonga, kuna mambo moba tujabonga.
manze.
Juu niko kwanza nikotaka kujua World Vision, World Vision kasa for example.
Yes.
Kuna hiyo story ya land grabbing.
Yes.
Unagid? World Vision wako already kwa ground. Mimi naimezea sana. Mimi niko part and parcel hii story.
Wow.
Juu nimesomea ghetto. Unanigate? So nilikuwa na sponsor nini akwa naishi yuko Spain. But anyway. Sasa niko nakuulizaje? Nyinyi kama World Vision ningetaka kujua mmechukua majukumu gani ku make sure hizi stories za children playing ground. Na history ya land grabbing.
Yes.
Mnashirikianaje na government ku make sure at least watu wapata ground yao?
Good. Kuna one of the things we do the advocacy. Yeah, advocacy is all about bringing partners and other voices together to ensure that the right of the child is well taken care of. As I actually earlier said, we always look for the best interest of the child.
Yes.
So kuna vitu kadhaa tumefanya. I cannot mention everything, but of course there's a module tumefanya ya positive parenting, and it is actually being rolled out by the government, and World Vision was part of coming up with it. Part of it is to even train the parents to be better parents. One of the other things we do in advocacy through the county government and all that is to ensure that we have safe places for safe spaces for children to play, and that is one of the key things that we are doing. Na hii tunafanya across the country. We are in 37 of the 42 counties. 47 counties. So in all these, that is what World Vision does.
Your safe space pain include ile situation ya GBV, for example.
Yes. Protecting them. So we have partnered with the government. We have safe houses, especially West Pokot. Tuko na inaitwa Child Protection Center, where children who have run away from the CAT, that is FGM, can actually have a safe space for them, during that particular time. We protect them and then they go back.
And how can they reach out? How can they reach out in case right now unachiki kuna mguys anajua mtu anateseka pahali fulani, yuko West Pokot angependa kupiga simu, engage with you guys?
Okay, of course, every office has different avenues, but ile unaweza kufanya ukitaka kusaidika, you can actually call like the head office, and then you can be directed on 0711 086 000.
0711
086 That one will come to the reception. Then of course ukishaongea unaweza kuwa directed, but of course we said for anything that is happening for that particular child, call 116. 116 is toll free. Hiyo hata kama una credo inaenda through, and for GBV 1195.
Thank you. Samuel, nikitokea in less than a minute, nikuna historia. Samuel ni Executive Director, African Institute for Children's Studies. So kwa your studies size so far malimefika. Historia ya children right manzena watoi kugandamizwa. In Africa so far, how we doing? Score yetu inakaaje? So especially ukiangalia tumekuwa na mkutano ni 3 umelisimamika. Nini ya 3
na to big up what I hope guys can come up to the conference. You're invited at Daystar University, the International Conference on Child Protection in Africa. Like I said, for Kenya, for sure we're improving. There are countries that the recent studies showed that they're actually getting worse. So it is possible to also get worse. But I think part of this is because we've improved access to education, for example. We've improved access to, social support systems. So I think generally there is opportunity to increase, but there are too many cases. In this situation, we usually say one is too many. We cannot say. And let me finish by saying this. There's a proverb that I really believe in. It says that, let me read it. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. If you don't take care of a child, and so wezi kuwa kako useme my child is fine. If the other child is not fine,
that child is not fine.
Yes.
Bwana Samuel, contact information in case maybe one wants to find out information about your institute, and of course maybe partnership.
Yes. I will encourage one, you can send us an email at info@institute Child Studies, info@Institute Child Studies. You can also call us on 0731 827 366.
Social media presence, unajua siku hizi Gen Z.
AI Child Studies.
Fantastic. AI Child Studies. Gabriel, social media info for my guys wa World Vision.
Yes, we have a Twitter that is World Vision Kenya, and of course Instagram World Vision Kenya, Facebook World Vision Kenya. Once you get there, you have all that it takes, you know, for you to read about what World Vision is doing. Maybe I should just say something
yes,
as I finish up. You know, I work with a Christian organization, and I want to say this. Watoto si wetu. Yeah, the Bible in Psalms 127 3 the children are a gift from God. They are like quivers in a hunter's in a hunter's they are like arrows in a hunter's quiver. Blessed is the man who has many of them. So usitese mtoto jusi wako. Ni God amekupatia, you are a steward. Take care of that particular child.
I love it. I love it. What a way to wrap up the conversation. Once again, guys, we've been hanging out with special guests, the one and only Gabriel Mureithi, Protection and Children in Emergencies Officer, World Vision Kenya, and Samuel Munyuwiny. Yes, not Munyuwiny.
Munyuwiny.
Yeah, Munyuwiny, Executive Director, African Institute for Children's Studies. Na leo imekuwa World Children's Day, and the theme is for every child, every right. Asanteni sana, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Now, when we come back, hey, hii maneno ya wanaume kupewa pocket money. You know, yesterday was International Men's Day. Na nasikia hapa hivi Kev, there's a man in this country 254 yetu. Ati buda unapata mshande hivi unapelekea wife. Hey babe.
Hata swali ungesema nani ajai kwa hivyo?
Mimi sijai.
Hujai mari.
Mbona hizo my wife? So guys,
baby.
Aina mimi basi hiyo. Kama unajipata kwa situation. Zain.
Yani buda, you're giving your wife, unapatia girlfriend. Acha tuseme tu wife. Unapatia wife wako, your pocket money, yeye ndo sasa anaenda ku run affairs of the home kwa sababu wanasemanga the woman is the CEO of the home. She understands money better than you. Wewe unaenda pale unasema, babe, naweza get 25. Just okay 2k. Please, okay sawa 18.
Mama anakopesha dona nanga job. Na nakopesha na hizo dona wewe
lakini job ni kulea watoi.
Bro, hizi dona wewe ukimgei. Amesunda ameingia chama sijui gani, wanaendelea fiti. Avuna kama siku moja una do. Babes, nipige 1000.
Please.
Mimi pengine nikuchukulie kwa chama. Imagine ndio atapigia. Afa anajipigisha best yake hapo. Wangare. Ndarudisha. I swear I'll make sure by kesho jioni. Kumbe ni wewe unaambiwa. By kesho jioni the umerudisha.
I like that. #morningvibes. I've got some Jaguar and Kylan, undeniable right now. 12 minutes after 8. Good morning, twende kazi.
Nobody can stop reggae.